All right, let's head out to the studio in the clouds. Holy Hannah, look at that straggly hair I got going in the back there. I gotta hide that. Oh my word, I gotta get a shower. I gotta put a collared shirt on. Matt Kruse, how you doing today?
Hey, doing great. Good to see you and visit with you again. It's been a little bit.
I apologize. I was out at the dog park running the dog around. Didn't have time to throw a collared shirt on and give you the proper respect that, as a professional, I try to give people that are doing interviews. You take the time out of your busy schedule. But I'll be honest, when I interview you, the reason I do mostly is because my mind goes to baseball.
Hmm.
You're a former baseball aficionado and coach, and as am I. I'm a former coach and a player, and had a tryout with the Cincinnati Reds, and they said, "Yeah, you're too slow." And then the Atlanta Braves said, "You're even slower than the Reds said." So, nope, don't think so there. And
Oh boy.
so when the baseball season comes, Matt, I got to be honest, I think of you often, and so I thought I'd check in with you. And you got a pretty good gig going right now. You're not. Are you coaching anymore, or are you just in the oil and
Still
gas
helping out at
industry?
still helping out at Western Oklahoma State College. The new role here, as far as marketing for the entire Edge OFS portfolio has got me a little busier than I had been. So it's a little tougher to get around the team. But here the past month and a half, I was down in Colombia. The first time I'd been to Colombia was down there scouting some players, and then a few weeks before that was in Santiago, Dominican Republic. So still get to dabble in it a little bit, enough to whet the appetite, stay motivated with it, and have some fun and give some guys opportunities. But um, oil and gas
What
is what pays
what's
the
it
bills for
like
sure.
down there? What's the of course we always think it's like some kind of third world country and there's chickens running around the street and people are using burros to get to work. Is that the case, or is it pretty
Well,
modern
there's
society?
some of that, like when I'm down there, I'm not in the resorts. Like I've been to a resort one
Right.
time out of probably 9 trips. So at
You're
times
you're
it's
like in Harlem of New York, man. You're scouting players.
I'm up in the yeah in the middle of nowhere of Dominican Republic,
Right.
to where you're down there and showering with cups of water and flushing toilets with buckets of water, and it can get a little bit different. But then at times, then down in Santo Domingo, and you're like, golly, I feel poor in this area. So there's a big variety from poor to wow, it's really nice here. But you can see more investment money going into Latin America because in some of the areas where it's getting nicer and a little more expensive. And I hear the same talking to some of the guys who go down to Costa Rica, and they say as well, like more Western money's coming down, American money, wherever it's coming from, and that it's getting more expensive. But
Yeah, I
I
just had
enjoy
a
it.
buddy. I just had a buddy who flew down to the Caribbean islands. He didn't tell me which one.
Mhm.
That they signed a deal for renewable on-site energy type of a deal because
Okay.
I think it's trash burning, something along those lines. They have some sort of think of like shipping containers.
Hmm.
That's what whether it's Bitcoin or renewable, energy pods. Those shipping containers seem to be like the perfect size for those types of things. So there is some investment going on down there.
Yeah, and well, here's the importance of oil and gas too, to kind of bring it all together. Like my
Yeah.
last trip down to Dominican Republic, the last night I was there, they had a nationwide power outage, and it just goes to show that the availability to inexpensive or affordable energy is at times the difference between first world and third world. And if I had to give a definition, what is the difference in the two? That would probably be the main driver of it. But what was really shocking and an eye opener to me down there in the midst of this, national power outage is that nobody even blinked an eye. It was just, put on some candlelight or whatever battery light you have, and life goes on. Everybody is still eating, drinking, laughing, having fun. And as I was sitting there in the midst of this, and it was um, probably from about 4 o'clock in the evening till at least 10. I mean, it was at least a 6 hour deal. And I was thinking, if we are back in the States and this happened, there would be a run on groceries, toilet paper, water. You'd think you're under attack, but it just goes to show that, like the American dream is here. A guy can come over, work hard, make it, but at times with it, sometimes when you get into, different countries, there's a simplicity, there's a happiness that isn't tied to the grind, to work hard, to, it's nice to get some perspective and go to those places for sure.
Yeah, and just to kind of put a little bit of a layer on it, through the course of doing a lot of these different interviews in the oil and gas industry, of course, a lot of government affairs and a lot of civic planning and et cetera, et cetera. I got to learn that between emergency services and hospitals, you're talking about 70 to 80% of your grid. That's incredible. Like, it's anywhere from 50 to 80%, but right around 70 is that kind of that sweet spot for hospitals and emergency services. And so when people talk about energy security, that's a lot of what they're talking about is that, there's a lot of people on relying on, I'm one of them. I went 19 days without food and water hooked up to, a bunch of machines.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a bag of some kind of, I don't know, some kind of potassium drip or something. It said made in Mexico on the bag. So I called it my horchata because it looked like horchata. And so that, yeah, man, that's, and really, you start looking around and all these machines are made out of plastic and, and it's just everything that goes over the wires is made out. There really is a lot of energy security that's involved. And so the simplicity that you're talking about is a reality, but you're giving up so much. And we've gone, it's trying to find that sweet balance is really the lesson that I'm getting at, because we shouldn't freak out to the tune that you're talking about. If, we get a blackout for a night or something like that, we should not freak out. We should be calm enough to know that the tigers are not going to jump out of the bedroom and get us, type of a thing. Whereas in the Dominican, something might jump out of the dark and get them down there.
So I say here in Texas, there's not too many things that you're going to encounter, on land that are going to take you out. But yeah, you get into the jungle or you get into Alaska, and that changes in a hurry.
To be fair, down in Texas, you got boars, and they can do some damage. So that's to be fair there. But let's talk about the company here. You mentioned that you're much busier now. And starting at your background from the college there in Western Oklahoma, and then kind of what you did to where you're at now. Just give us that kind of elevator pitch of where's Western Oklahoma University again?
That's it's a junior college. It's in Southwest Oklahoma in Altus, a town of like around 20,000. I had played there in 2001, and in short, it's one of the most special things in my life that I've been able to be involved with the program. Not only as a player, but then started coaching there in fall of '08. And minus a couple of years there, I've been involved as a coach in some form or fashion for a lot of years, and to have won a national championship there and played for 4 national championships at my alma mater, at a place that a lot of people would have never expected, even myself, if you're playing there and said, "Do you think the program will ever reach these heights?" I probably wouldn't have believed it. And to have been a part of that in any way, it's one of those reminders that dreams do come true. And even if nobody else believes in you, if you do believe in it and you do work for it, and you can inspire people around you that also believe in it, that you can do pretty special things. And so, I was a part of that. And then when my former players got me in the oil field, my firstborn was on the way, and it was time to not chase baseball games. It was time to chase some money and provide for a family. And, that put me on the path, and it's just been a slow progression over time. And, came on over here at Ideal Completion Services as account manager for West Texas. And then they saw some of the marketing that I was able to do and said, "Hey, how about you do the marketing and the recruiting with the baseball recruiting background I had?" And then that turned into, "Hey, how about you do that for all of our companies under the Edge OFS umbrella?" So what's been really neat about it, Jason, is from like lasso drilling, I've never been around the drilling side. I've got to learn that. Then you got reach wire lines. So now seeing some of the, wireline operations, Jacksboro Supply Company. They got perforating guns. So now you start learning a little bit of downhole, very, very surface level, pun intended. I'm not some expert downhole because I take pictures and talk with the guys, but it's been a neat to learn it. And then obviously I deal completion services, which is my background from the field on the flow back and well testing side. And what's cool is we got some companies up in Canada as well. Reliance, also wireline, plug and perf, and Edge drilling. So it's been a variety and a lot of learning and a really, really neat process. I didn't go to school for marketing. When you're at a small college, you do it all. When you're at a small college and you're trying to build a winner and you're trying to show off, hey, here's what we got going, you naturally become a marketer. And then when I had my own small little company on the flowback side, years ago, you're doing the same thing. It just kind of grew into this. So it's been a neat progression and glad to be a part of a good group here.
You're building a national championship brand is what you're doing.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, in your mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
whether you're doing it or not, that's who cares. That's in your mind what you're doing. And I can tell just by your language, you're building a team, if you will, but you're not necessarily using players and positions as much as maybe parts of the supply chain or elements of,
sure.
The completion side or maybe the finance, in the publishing world, I used to call it Tetris, where we'd take, articles and photographs and advertisements, and we'd have to put together our Tetris at the end of the day. And so I started looking at the world in blocks and shapes and, that sort of thing. But my background, of course, is a lot of it in sports. And so very similar thing where you'd have to bring in that element and that energy because sports always keeps you moving one way or another. It just does. And there's a certain element of teamwork that comes in there. Have you found that was a pretty easy transition to go from the sports world into the oil and gas world? Because they say that,
Yes.
going from the military to the oil and gas is a pretty lateral transition, especially on the crew camps where you got to be in bed by 8:00, some of those ones.
Yes. It's been more of a transition from being in the field in the oil field to a marketing role than it was going from the baseball field into a field-based role.
Yeah.
The sense of team that you get out here, the camaraderie, you go through a hard workout and you feel, a brotherhood with the guys that you went through, like you're all short on sleep. We've all been busting our tail. You get that in the field. Sometimes I feel, not as oil field to the core, when you're just visiting in this role as when you're out there working every day. A lot more camaraderie. And yes, it does have more of a team feel in that. But as a transition for me, it's been where I don't have some great business background. I don't have, anything like that I can draw upon. But what I can always do is take baseball analogies and go, as we're setting up something or we need to move a certain direction, and you're taking how you would coach a team and, the same things that make a winner in one make a winner in another. Just like a good coach that's a good baseball coach could go coach tennis. Maybe doesn't know anything about tennis, but can coach the mentality, can coach the energy, the body language, the positivity, and, try to make anything that you're around better with, what you bring to the table and work hard, obviously.
So Edge OFS, is that right? OFS?
Correct.
What does OFS stand for?
Oilfield Services.
Oilfield Services. Okay. Well,
yes.
Boy, ask a dumb question there. And well, nowadays everybody's got these, acronyms and everything. So it's so just easy to ask, that sort of thing. But I actually didn't. That was a real. Sometimes I bait. You know what I mean? I bait. I'll ask a question I know the answer to. I didn't actually know the answer to that because I wasn't.
Well, now you do.
Yeah, I just with acronyms, I just stopped thinking now because it's just some people try, but that makes total sense. Oilfield.
I got a resume in the other day, and it was somebody that had worked for one of the majors, and the entire resume was acronyms. I was on Claude AI saying, "Hey, what does this stand for? What is this?" because they'll get you. So there's a lot of acronyms in oil field for sure.
That's what I'm saying, and
Oh yeah.
so it gets, and with the new AI and the new
Oh yeah.
data and the new tech and everything, boy, it gets a little bit out of
Well, that's
control.
speaking of grid. I'm kind of going back to what we were talking about,
Yeah.
and like you on machines, and like to say, thank God you're with us and that you're doing good. I've always enjoyed you and the passion that you have for what you're doing. But yeah, I know one of my former coworkers, Sarah Phillips, up in the Northeast. That's what really brought attention to it for me when she was saying, her why is, that how many mothers go and lose babies because the energy isn't there to incubate them for the time that it might take in those critical days or weeks. And it really got me looking at energy differently. So you saying that's 100%. But also one thing that's coming too is these data centers and the amount of energy consumption that those are in, and especially down in West Texas, where I know some of the talk is on the natural gas, and that feeding some of these plants, it definitely makes for optimism for the industry. It probably puts a whole lot more crunch on possibly the water side and groundwater side of things, but just from overall usage and on top of what oil and gas uses in West Texas. But uh,
So I spoke to talk about the water thing, and then I'm going to ask you if you guys are doing much to position yourself for AI in a second here. But on the waterfront, they're finding some very good success because actually North Dakota has an abundance of AI centers that have popped up in the past couple of years, and I know some contractors pretty well, and they're using like a glycol or like kind of a, a fluid solution that you do not that can be recycled back and forth, that type of thing. So what I've learned in the past year about the water side of things, that's not even a problem for AI anymore. And
wow.
I'm very critical about the water thing. I'm
Mhm.
very critical.
It's the lifeblood of humanity. You got to have it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, you do. I mean, I went 19 days without food and water, and with a drip just to keep me alive. So I'm very, in tune to certain things, and but there's certain we all have our hills that we die on, and this and that and everything along those lines, and so um, for me to say, okay, the AI centers, the water's not an issue. That's a big deal for me because I've still got issues with the land rights and even the sound. I'm hearing problems with the sound, and so I'm not satisfied there. But getting back to what you guys do,
Mhm.
with the oil field services, are you positioning yourself in any way for AI? Because West Texas, they're coming, and they're actually on site now. I mean, there some of the majors are just building little
Well,
mini
yeah.
refineries and little micro centers, and that is the future. And Trump, I think Trump even said that if you want data centers, power them yourself. And so whether it's happening or not, there's definitely the conversation for it. Are you guys
It's for
having?
sure happening. Yes, for
Yeah.
us on a couple different fronts. Like I know with Reach Wireline, our Helios trucks, have capabilities when that time comes to plug in and do that. For us, ideal completion services is at the front, I would say. And I know, speaking of North Dakota, we got a base up there in Minot. But what we're doing for some of the majors right now, in terms of automation, and not just automation, but like autonomous sand separators that are blowing themselves down, and then we've got everything automated over on the tanks to where you don't overflow anything. To right now in Colorado, Wyoming, we've got electric manifolds, we've got electric junk catchers. That I mean, I was out on location with them at one point in Colorado, and we were opening and closing valves from Calgary off a phone. It's amazing the things that we used to sit on location going, man, it would be crazy if we could do this. At Ideal, we're doing them, and it's one of those things that at times you can get into a morality of it, and you go, well, the more automation, the less need for people in certain applications, and there is some truth to that. Will some of those jobs transition other places? Yes. But you go into meetings, and was in a meeting, within the last couple months, from a major player, and they said our goal is to get your equipment in and out of our location as quick as possible, and to do it with no humans in the red zone at all. And so it's like, well, if we don't do it, the next guy is going to. So we've been very aggressive in our R&D and moving there, because at some point it's going to go to that. Whether all the mon pas are there right away, probably not, because talking to other buddies in the industry, and they said they've met with people and said we don't want anything to do with automation. And had you came in with automation, we would have sent you back out, because they want to protect the jobs and in their view of what it is. But ultimately, for long-term sustainability of the industry, our company as a whole, and what people want, it's going that direction.
Yeah, and if you look at the coal industry, I think that's a very good analogy, even to where they lump them in as fossil fuels together. But there used to be 30 people that would mine a side of a mountain, and now they're down to like maybe 6. And even in the print industry, it happened the same thing. The farming industry. So it's amazing the oil and gas industry has hung on as long as it has, actually, with the amount of workers, with the amount of unsafe jobs that would be deemed unsafe by most people, because that's where a lot of the AI is coming in. It's coming. And so some of the jobs are shifting to more monitoring the AI and some of the safety and some of the compliance things. That's what I see
here's one,
happening.
Jason. Here's one for you.
Go ahead.
So, like in operations, you'll have flowback tanks out on location that you're actively flowing fluids into, and you'll have guys with a wooden tank stick up there sticking it in the tank with color cut. Tank is venting right in their face, and they're doing that in 2026. We have people standing over tanks getting blown in the face with natural gas, whether you're putting all that gas, it's still going to have gas. And it's sitting over a tank doing that. I mean, I've got one buddy that was on a tank, and they had a pressure release. That tank blew, and it blew him, probably 30, 40 feet off the tank. And, he now does not have full function of his legs, where, like, why is he on the tank? Why? I know me personally, previous job when I was running in the Texas Panhandle, I was helping the pumpers in the winter run their routes. And I went, and I don't drink alcohol anymore, but at that time I was living in Nebraska, and I had a couple beers before I went out on my hitch, everything normal. I go down there, I'm running this particular route, and I went and had some beers with my buddies. They were setting up for a big barbecue cook-off they were doing. And so it was maybe the Friday night of setup, and I'm drinking, and I'm just all over my torso and my legs. I'm getting red spots. It looked like you just took a Sharpie and just dabbed it all over. And I'm starting to go, this is not normal. Like, I have something really wrong going on. The next day was the barbecue. We drank more. And it was like, the more I drank, the more pronounced they got. After about 3 days, they faded away. And I'm like, the only variables from when I was at home to down here is I'm running these certain wells, and they were old legacy wells. And, you can pop the hatch when you're going to gauge a tank and, get the main gas out there, but there's still always that little bit that's there. And I'm like running that route and then drinking the beer. So then once it cleared up, I had some beers again. It did again. I went to the doctor over in Canadian Texas, and they're like, well, we ran my blood, everything. They're like, well, we don't see anything, but we looked in the New England Journal of Medicine. There was one thing that kind of looked like, but that's not it. We're not sure. Well, I stopped running that route, and it never happened again. So obviously I was breathing in chemicals that were reacting with whatever in the beer. So it at least alerted me to that. But how many times are guys doing that, and maybe their body isn't giving them an indicator, and there's no need for that when all that can be automated, and we have somebody that's checking that off a screen, that's checking off their phone, and that frees that operator instead of stand on a tank for 12-hour shift. He's able to move around at ground level, thaw freezes, work with the coming, whatever it may be. So yeah, some of these jobs at this point need to be automated. and I get it. You can go safety, 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 and we want to protect the people. Until you're like, damn, we protected the people so much there's no people, and then that becomes a whole nother deal as a societal issue. What do you do when unemployment rates are at numbers that are not sustainable? And we've always been capitalism, and we don't want communism. We go, well, how did these people going to survive? There'll be a lot of questions that have to get answered down the line. But in the here and now, definitely some jobs that should be automated, and the field's going to go more and more that way.
It's easy to see where AI is going to go if we don't, make some changes, and there's no changes yet. So it's, when you're talking about some of the mass layoffs and a number of different things along those lines, because it is going to happen. In the same way when the internet first came out, like travel agencies went away. There's gone within a year, like 85% gone. When the internet came out, 85% of publishing companies went bankrupt within 4 years, for a variety of reasons. But, so when I take a look at kind of the changes that are happening, a lot of companies, they're diversifying themselves. So, looking at what Edge Oilfield Services, OFS, you guys are pretty diversified. So when I look at Gladiator Energy, now who's Gladiator Energy's customer, and what services do they provide?
So Gladiator, actually, if they haven't updated the website, it needs to get updated. So thanks for the heads up on that. But no,
Hey, no
Gladiator, they just sold the assets, and a new company formed out of that. So good plug for them. Go Coil 2.
Okay.
And they're running in West Texas, South Texas, I believe Louisiana, and the Northeast. But they're not involved with Edge OFS at this point. But a lot of the same people went over there, and wish those guys best of luck. There's some really awesome people and really hard workers in that group. But that's coiled tubing. That's what they do.
A lot of M&A activity in the oil and gas industry, even during interviews, happens just like that. All right, so
quick, and it's really changed the landscape of the industry for the service companies. It's put a real crunch on everybody, because you go back even to COVID times. Like, it's 2026, it's 6 years down the road, but in the grand scheme of timetables, it hasn't been that long. There was probably a lot of companies during COVID that probably got saved through the PPP loans and different things. Some of those companies were making more during that than they were actually operating. Their margins were better and kept them in the game, to where now these mergers keep happening. So it's like you've got as many people chasing, less accounts. And so it has just still kept the pricing, and kept the service companies at bay in the whole grand scheme of things. Pricing still hasn't fully come back, and it's still a battle. And those M&As have had a big reason on, some of that still happening for sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought so too when COVID happened. Over the year and a half of COVID, basically, when you look at the amount of money that was printed from when the United States was founded to COVID, in that 3 to 4 year period, or a year and a half period, they did twice as much. So they essentially printed two economies printed in that amount of time. And a lot of that money is running out of gas now. And, they reshaped the way they wanted to do things. And this gets into some of the political things. That's one of the reasons why there's tariffs, and that's, a lot of these different political moves that are happening, and that sort of thing, is because people were trying to reshape the economy, and they were doing it through, PPP and a number of different things. And so,
and there's a great redistribution of wealth to the upper class. During that period, that it's, once you start building momentum, it's kind of a runaway train.
Our company never got any COVID help. We're still waiting for it.
Right.
So it never even trickled down to us. And a single parent fighting cancer. Yeah, you'd think that'd be the person that would you'd want to give a little bit to get them going. But no, that didn't work. But um, did want to ask you about Ideal Completion Services. That's another one of your companies. And now, do you still have that, or did that sell in the
Oh yeah,
last
no,
30
that's there.
seconds?
Hey,
Okay, whoo.
that's a powerhouse. We've got bases up in Canada, Grand Prairie, Red Deer, um, Canadian headquarters there in Calgary, but then working our way south, Minot, North Dakota. They do a good job up there. And Colorado, we've got bases in Grand Junction and Kersey. And then down in West Texas, we've got a base in Midland. But with some of the automation, the Ross automated real-time operated smart system that we're running, that's something that we're also using as a rental piece that, if there was somebody in Pennsylvania that wanted it, we can, bring it up there wherever it needs to go. But I think that's a real game changer piece because right now, flowback traditionally has been, a low barrier for a new company to come in. You get third party hands, third party iron, and say you got a flowback company because it wasn't a bunch of machinery and engine, horsepower. But I think the great separator is going to be the automation, where the cream will rise to the top. That's staying in tune with where the industry is going, and I think that'll, everything we've been doing is to position ourselves for that as that time comes and that transition happens. And a lot of exciting things happening, especially with the
Yeah,
automation.
Calgary, Minot, Grand Junction, those are primarily natural gas plays.
Yeah, they got some biggest oil wells I've ever been on were back in the day over in the Bakken. They had some
Yeah,
monster oil wells up
it's
there too.
obviously the Bakken was an oil play, but
Yeah.
there's natural gas that came out of it, and
Oh yeah.
Calgary's almost more natural gas than um, oil sands. That I suppose the oil sands are up there, and then Grand
Hmm.
Junction, that's mostly natural
A lot of
gas.
gas. A lot of
Is there
gas.
much oil in Grand Junction?
Not compared to those other bases. But yeah, when the gas price get going, that definitely was a help for
Yeah,
Grand Junction.
I
But
love Grand Junction. I
I
love
do
that.
too. If I had to go back in the field tomorrow to one of the bases we have, I love that Grand Junction area. Whatever they're like, hey, we need you to come get some pictures and videos out here. It's like, yes,
I tell
yeah, I
people
love
that
it.
all the time. Grand Junction, even Farmington, and things
Oh
like. I
yeah.
say, you ever need someone, I'll go there in a heartbeat. You kidding me? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, Grand Junction, man, that's some nice country. Oh
Oh
man,
yeah.
you kidding me? Just surrounded by national parks all over the place, and yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, that's I like getting that the Grand Junction to Midland. When I'm hitting one at times, just make the whole loop. And oh yeah, you get down there into a lot of those old ancient ruins, Aztec ruins, the Chaco Canyon, going between them,
how
Black Canyon. I know I'm missing the one over there by Montrose, but yeah,
I mean,
there's some
are you coming
beautiful
down through
places.
like Moab, or how are you
You
getting?
can go two ways. You can go Grand Junction, go Moab.
Uh
So
huh.
like during winter,
Yep.
when the Red Mountain Pass is a little treacherous, our guys will go the Moab way. But when it's passable, then Red Mountain Pass is the quickest.
Is
And
that
that's
Denver?
no, Denver's to the
Yeah, I
east.
know
Red
that's
Mountain
really
Pass is like
far, but I mean,
straight
if you're
south
going to
going.
Midland, what do you
Well, you go
where are you going south
Grand
at?
Junction to Farmington, Albuquerque, and then Albuquerque start heading back east.
Oh, I didn't realize you could do Grand Junction to Farmington. I thought you had to go through Moab to get there. So,
No, one of the ways. Yeah, the
that's
other
one of
way
the
is just
ways.
going through
Yeah,
the
that's just
mountains.
going around. You're going a little bit west. Yeah, okay.
And then, hey,
Um,
that for a flatlander, that Grand Junction go through the Red Mountain Pass, $1 million highways they call it. Oh, that's just steep cliffs, no guardrails. It'll get the blood pumping a little bit. If you want to work on your nerves, go take that drive when there's a little bit of snow.
oh, you kidding? That's some scary times, man. I mean,
I've got a YouTube channel. I put a time lapse. I've got a GoPro attachment on the top of my car, and I just put it there for the whole drive and did a time lapse. That video did pretty well because yeah, it looks pretty treacherous. And then
was that tough to do to put a GoPro?
no, I got the attachment just on my car. I
Okay.
do a lot of like just from driving through somewhere, I'll just run the GoPro and just do a video. It's when you're busy, you don't have time to edit. There's a lot of people that just like to look at like point of view driving videos through different areas. So it's just a quick way to get some content, keep it moving without a whole lot of editing that has to be done.
Ideal Completion Services, are they down in New Mexico or Texas,
Yeah,
Oklahoma, Louisiana, that kind of thing?
yeah, yeah. Down there, we got the base in Midland.
Okay.
Our Grand Junction base has a little satellite down there in Farmington. So, yeah, Grand Junction to Farmington and over into that. You went to into Utah. That's where Grand Junction covers. So,
Yeah. Utah, boy, that's lovely too. That's some nice area.
oh yeah,
Ironclad Energy, is that still under your portfolio?
they went with a lot of those assets as far as with Gladiator as well. They were pumps, pressure pumps.
Okay. Lasso, how about Lasso?
Lasso's here. Lasso's doing great. That's one thing when you have a portfolio of this size that does as many different things as it does, that you can see, the drilling is always going to be the first to move.
Mm-hmm.
So, can really see here recently, since that price has peaked, on the sales call with all the different outfits that, a lot more rumblings happen on the drilling side, whether that's translating to rig count numbers right now or not, I don't know. But those guys at Lasso do a really good job. So yeah, I know they sounds like they're getting an increase in calls and interest. So, hopefully that's an indicator that, industry's ready to react and try to meet demand, especially as long as they got the strait closed. And, I know when at first glance when it was like, oh, we got Venezuela and the oil there. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure needs to happen before, that can really, pan out and to our advantage in the United States. So yeah, hopefully things are about to start picking up.
Uh, what are they drilling? What type of is it traditional vertical stripper wells, or are they fracs, or what are they like?
They're drilling for anybody and everybody in West
Okay.
Texas. So if longer laterals, they can drill them. Yeah, shallow wells, they're positioned for all of it. They do a
Hey,
really good job. A lot of experience over there.
you mentioned you spent some time up in the Panhandle.
Uh-huh.
I still want to ask you about Reach Wireline too, but um, what's up in the Panhandle? I haven't spent a lot of time up there. Usually, I'm just kind of is Wichita Falls in the Panhandle?
No, I would say that's North Texas.
Okay,
Amarillo. I used to live in Miami. It's spelled like Miami,
yeah.
but the accent or whatever, it's Miami. Population 495. There's more people in my apartment complex down here in Conroe, the Woodlands, than there was out there in the entire town. But it's really pretty. A lot of canyons. You've got the second largest canyon in the United States, Paladuro Canyon's over there outside of Amarillo. So, the
I've never
tentacles
even
of
heard of
that.
that canyon, or
Oh
never.
yeah,
I
Paladuro Canyon. It's the second largest canyon in the United States behind
really.
the Grand Canyon. It's beautiful. And so you get a lot of canyons, plateaus, mesas. It's very rural. I enjoy living there. I mean, there wasn't much to do, but sometimes that's what's nice about it. And it was a good stop off spot. I was probably from Miami. I was 5 hours to Odessa, 4.5 to Midland, 7 to Denver, 10 or 11 to Grand Junction. So I could hop, wherever. Pretty 9.5, 9 from the Woodlands. But yeah, it was good, really pretty. But I was searching through your site, through some of your social medias, and I saw Route 66 and had a deal. Exxon was going to be sponsoring a Route 66 ride. So the halfway point is in the Texas Panhandle of Route 66 from the Chicago side, or then going towards Santa Monica. So last year, about this time last year, maybe March of last year, I set off at the Cadillac Ranch in Amarillo, and I drove Route 66 all the way out there to Santa Monica Pier. And so that was an awesome drive for somebody who likes to make videos and pictures, like just a lot of history. And, you try to take yourself back to like, what was it like in 1950s United States when, that was prime Americana and everybody's starting to get vehicles and taking trips. And it's a lot of history and very cool. And when you get to the end of it at the pier, it feels like quite the accomplishment. And it was fun. So you
So
don't get that when you're flying.
So you drove from the Cadillac Ranch to the midway point, essentially, to
Yeah,
Santa Monica.
I did.
Right
Yeah,
on. So now you got to
it was
do
awesome.
the midway to Chicago, right?
That needs to happen. That is going to
That's
happen.
the next step. Yeah, isn't that
That will
great?
happen.
You know,
Yeah.
when I was growing up, Route 66 was a song, and yeah, it was a show, but it wasn't in my consciousness at all. It was,
Hmm.
well off the air by the time I was watching TV. We had different Strokes and Dukes of Hazzard and stuff like that. And that even the song, it was, more oldies than it was anything contemporary or current in my life. But I was aware of Route 66, that sort of thing. And when I wrote the book, I did a 66 uh, facts about Route 66. I'm a big bathroom reader guy. I like
Okay.
the Uncle John's bathroom reader.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do a book on something but that was crude related. And
Hmm.
so I saw that Route 66 was turning 100 years old, and I just started thinking more about it. And I'm like, actually, Route 66, so much of our culture is from Route
Oh, yeah.
66, from business, from entertainment. And then as I started doing more research, like motels were created because of Route 66. They didn't have motels, they had hotels, but motels were different. Engineering changed on the motels. All of a sudden, that changed the whole civic engineering of towns and cities. And so Phillips 66, the name actually came from Route 66 in a roundabout sort of way. Phillips 66 needed to get a internal combustion engine to be safe enough to go 66 miles an hour, um, and in a way that, could be safe and be compliant and all these. And they did it on Route 66. And so it was kind of a three different 66 things came into that name. And then gas stations, for example, people would go to the hardware store and pick up buckets of gasoline, and then they'd go and they'd dump it in their car at home. Route 66 created gas stations to where you
Probably
do.
the most memorable gas station stop along the trip would be, you wouldn't see it if you start in Amarillo at Cadillac Ranch. You got to start, it's on closer to Oklahoma, still on the Texas side, but in Shamrock, Texas, they've got the old gas station. It's in the movie Cars. They have a little mock-up of it. But yeah, it's really neat. I'll tell you this: when I made that trip, because so many of those segments of it have now been diverted to just I-10 or whatever.
Right,
I
right.
believe it's I-10 or I-20, whichever.
No,
But
it's I-10 on
okay,
when you start heading west. Yeah, yeah.
yes. So anytime I made a rule when I started, I told myself anytime it gives the uh, business, the business route of it, to just take it. Get off the interstate, always go on it. And
Right.
if you don't take the business loop when you go through, you'll miss so many of the cool old gas stations or hotels that still you can just envision, like in 1975, like Elvis Presley on the radio and pull up this place, and they still got the neons, but you got to get off on the little exits and get through all the little towns to see it. But yeah, it's something that if you got the time and the money and an adventurous spirit, it's a trip worth taking.
Well, and I think just even taking in a little bit of it, like,
Hmm.
maybe not as much as you did, or not as much as I'm going to do, but taking in a little bit more, just a day, drive it for a day, and you'll have more than you can do. I mean,
Yeah.
there's one guy I interviewed who's actually on the 11th, so in 2 days, we're recording this on April 9th. He's starting the Route 66 Great Convergence, and he's going from Chicago to Santa Monica Pier, and he's written a book. And the book, honestly, it looks like the scribing of a crazy man, because it's all like hand doodle stuff, and he's got
Okay.
arrows. And I mean, it looks like you walked into like some investigative reporter with the cork board and all this different stuff
Hmm.
going on. And but 434 stops is what he has.
Golly. Now
And
you
so
can't
yeah,
just
that's why
say
I'm
you saw
saying,
it
like,
all.
like the way that I'm doing the trip, and by the way, Shamrock, it is by far the most requested stop for me already,
Oh,
by
wow.
far. I bet I've
Okay.
gotten over 30 emails from people that have said, make sure you stop in Shamrock. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
without it, well, the Crude Life, you know what I mean? So there's,
oh yeah.
yeah, there's that kind of thing. But so, yeah, the
Nice.
bathroom reader, and we're doing the book, and I got such an appreciation for what Route 66 has done, because when you take a look at our modern culture, whether it's gas stations, speed limits, engine compliance, or motels, that came from Route 66. So much of our culture and Americana came from Route 66. Small business, traveling salesmen came from Route 66. So much of music came from Route 66 because these iconic places that had traveling salesmen, the musicians could rely on people for a change. Not family people, people that needed something at night to do because you didn't go out after 5 o'clock. Dinner was at 5:30, and then you went to bed. You didn't go out afterwards. I mean, that was the devil's children out after dark. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying Route 66 brought in the devil's children by any means, but you understand what I'm saying.
Oh
So
yeah.
I got such an appreciation for the internal combustion engine, because at the end of the day, all of that was powered by the internal combustion engine. And I don't want that to go away. So what we're doing is we're going to stop in every county, because when I went and did research on Route 66, there's not a shortage of ideas. I mean, I've found so many different ideas that people have done and tried to do, from bicycle trips to walking it to some gentleman did every sports place along the way. You know, there's a couple baseball stadiums and football. So he stopped at every, didn't matter if it was high school or pro or whatever. Talked to a pastor who did a devotional for every mile. There's 2,433 miles. That's a lot of
Wow.
devotionals. So
Yeah.
that's what I talked to one group from Kansas who only has 13 miles of Route 66 total in the whole state. They have a Jimmy Buffett Parrot Head Club for Route 66 in Kansas. That,
Wow.
yeah, that's the niche of the niche. You know what I mean? So
Oh
that's
yeah.
like, holy crap, man. So that's when I'm like, okay, there's no shortage of ideas for Route 66, but who's documenting these? There shouldn't be a shortage of people documenting them. Like your trip, for example, we'd love to publish the content and put it out there, because we're now certified by the Centennial Commission that was appointed by Congress. So our
Okay.
Route 66 trip and our Route 66 platform has been certified by Congress. So we have a, yeah, oh yeah, we're actually specialized now, and so the trip is
Nice.
actually going to be archived and with
Wow.
yeah, in with the National Archives. So that's why it's important to do these stops. So I might even just do, and so what I'm doing is basically stopping in every county and doing interviews and taking photographs and videos and just hey, I'll interview the crazy person. That's fine. You
Dude,
know
you're
what I
gonna
mean?
have such a great time. That is gonna be golden what you get on that. That's gonna be really, really cool. How many days are you gonna take to do it initially
So
planning?
initially, I was going to do 66, but then I realized that's probably not realistic.
Oh.
There's about 56 counties, okay, depending on which AI and map you look at, you know.
Hmm.
Like I asked all three of the AIs, the big ones,
Hmm.
three different answers.
Oh
And
wow.
so and when I tried to, do the different search engines to find the information, I realized that, okay, nobody's really done it by county before. Okay, so I am doing something that at least it's original in my mind. I don't like to be a copycat.
Hey, it's
So
original enough that Congress has given the seal approval.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, so we get to actually use their congressional seal that says we're certified on things. So yeah. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, we're looking at doing these different things, and we're going to be doing different broadcasting locations. So like in Galena, Kansas, we're doing it from the cars on Route 66.
Okay.
In Glen Rio, Texas, we're doing it from the ghost town, actually, with in Albuquerque, we're doing it from the Wheels Museum. And then you mentioned the Exxon one. That's from the Route 66 rides. This is
Yeah.
really cool. It's in Gallup,
Okay.
New Mexico, where the
Yeah.
El
It's
Rancho.
in the song.
Yeah, exactly. And what they do for this is it's a 2 or 3 day festival. I forget because a lot of times either the post party or the pre party, it's always included in the itinerary, but it's basically everybody leaves day. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so it's like one of those. So I think it's a 2 day deal, but it might be 3 days. I'm there for 3 or 4, but classic cars go down Main Street, and the hot air balloons are lining Main Street, and then they shoot fire.
Oh man, that is going to make for some super cool shots.
And that's when the cars go down. Right,
Yeah, that's
right
super
at
cool.
dusk too. Right at dusk. So it's
Oh wow.
just enough darkness to accentuate
Yeah.
the flames, but just enough light so you can get good visuals and photos. And yeah, oh yeah. When I got
I can't
invited
wait
to
to see.
that, I was like, this is perfect because that one I'll do the Crude Life and the Route 66 thing, and it's a 2 for 1. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I can use it for both because yeah. So, anyways, enough about me. Sorry, I get excited talking about the Route 66 thing because
That's a cool project. No, you should get
yeah,
excited about it.
and
That's awesome.
honestly, I think the oil and gas industry needs this too because
Mhm.
the industry needs to connect with people, and it's easy to go to a social networking event or a conference and be around your peers and your contemporaries and just throw red meat to the wolves. That's easy to do. But what I'm doing now, I'm going to go out and engage with people that they might not be too friendly towards the industry, but I'll be able to talk to them in a very good way because the whole thrust of our trip is powered by the internal combustion engine. This whole road is because of the internal combustion engine, man. I
Oh yeah.
mean, yeah, and then then we can get into saving the whales, saving the beavers, saving the otters, saving seriously,
Oh yeah.
because yeah, I mean before the internal combustion engine came, we were using whale oil
That's
as our
true.
main source, and we basically use kerosene and get rid of the rest. Well, when we got the new innovations, we started getting some synthetics and ways to do agriculture so we could mass produce cotton, and that stopped the beavers from getting trapped and traded. So everybody gets so upset at the oil and gas industry over the sage grouse and some lizard, and they save the whales and they save the beavers and they save the otters. That's true. At the end of the day, that's a true statement. And look at you, you're processing it.
I
I
know.
see
I
those.
am like, wow, save a whale. Pump some
Yeah,
gas, save a whale.
yeah.
I never.
Pump a gallon,
Well,
save the whales. That's right. Yeah. Seriously, go buy
marketing.
go buy polyester, save the beaver. You bet.
It's,
It's a podcast, folks. It's not necessarily meant for children sometimes. So, okay, we got the one more company I wanted to ask you about in my
yes,
notes
sir.
here. Reach Wireline. Is that still under your umbrella?
Yes, Reach is doing good. So Reach has got 2 locations that they're operating out of in Midland and then also down in South Texas. So the Eagleford, Permian, Delaware basins they have covered. They've got a really good team put together there, and they've been doing some really cool things. I know they got some electric fleet type stuff out there running in West Texas, and some more of their traditional wireline offerings down in South Texas. But I'm always really impressed talking to those guys. They do a good job. And for me, when my in the field, oilfield background is all surface equipment, surface deal. I enjoy learning and talking with those guys about some of the downhole things and tools that they can run and capabilities they have. So they do a good job over there. Great job.
Well, I'll tell you something that I was told about 10 years ago, probably almost 15 years ago now, because this is my 15th year of doing the Crude Life. At the end of the year, it is.
Mhm.
when I did the first interview. Next year will be the 15th year officially when I started the company. But
Okay.
we started in the Bakken, and so I was very naive and uninformed about the oil and gas industry, and so I went and lived out in the Bakken oil field, and lived out there. Did a food truck, did my show from the food truck, was writing for the
Oh
paper, and
wow.
oh yeah, man, that's how I did the.
I didn't know that.
Oh, that's
Okay.
how I did the first year.
Okay.
So, and there wasn't even
What were you
internet
guys
out
cooking?
there.
What were you cooking up?
I did pulled pork.
Okay.
The food truck was called the Rolling Stove.
Ah.
So we'd have some music going, and then when we turn the, and then I'd do an 11 to noon
Mhm.
live on the radio uh, um, show, and we'd
Okay.
have the mayor on, and then we'd have a trucker on following him, and then we'd have some CEO that's in town checking on a well, and then that sort of thing. It was a real cast of characters of a
Mhm.
show, and then I'd always end the show with today's lunch special is, and then I'd
Nice.
walk over and serve lunch, right? And then of
Yeah.
course we'd get more news tips from the food truck than anything. And the first 2 years I was out in the Bakken, they didn't have internet. Like Wi-Fi wasn't a thing,
Oh
right?
wow.
Right. So that, yeah. And so I had to always joke that, and I spent weeks getting all my social media pages up and ready to
Mhm.
go when I was in Fargo. Got out to Dickens, well, they didn't have any Wi-Fi. So I always had to joke that come to the food truck. It's our social media, man. That's all we got.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I had no idea that that's how you started out.
Yeah, and so I was a method journalist, and so before I do a story on skydiving, I'm going to go skydive. Before I go do a story on gambling, I'm going to go gamble. So, and I felt the same thing about the oil and gas industry. Was I actually went out there with the owners of Max? It's a kind of a hardware store, and him and I went out and counted cars, where we just sat at a couple different intersections and just counted cars as they went by, and did a few due diligence type things,
Mhm.
and literally we weren't even out there for 5 minutes, and we both looked at each other and went, yeah, there's enough to keep us busy for years, because there was just so much just activity going on, and nothing was ready for it. And just to give you an idea even further, out in western North Dakota, and talk about politics, the way that money gets shifted around and winners and losers get picked and lost out in western North Dakota, because they were kind of the black sheep and the redheaded stepchild for so long. Their roads never got funded because they only had 2 combines a year that went down there. That was it. Well,
Mhm.
now they had 50 trucks going down every hour, and literally when a rainstorm would come, big chunks would just slide off the road, like the size of
Oh
diving boards.
gosh.
Yeah, would just slide off because the roads were not prepared for these types of things. So anyway,
I always
what's
enjoy
something?
those stories though, Jason, of
Yeah, they're great.
the old Bakken. I worked 2 winters up there, and I enjoyed my time up there. But I'd always enjoy listening to those stories of when I was there, it was like what 2018, 19, 20.
Yeah,
You guys that were up there long before that, and what things were like before the infrastructure really took place, and it's
right. It was
really Wild
unbelievable,
West.
and
Yeah.
and a lot of the oil companies built the roads.
Hmm.
They just flat out built the roads.
Yep.
Hired the private company, I think Northern Improvement or whoever the heck and a big company was that would do these things, Roars Construction. And anyway, in 2016, I did a feature story for the Bismarck Tribune and the Bakken Breakout magazine about how cold the winter was, because we had 65 days consecutive below zero air temperature, not wind
Mm.
chill, air temperature was below. And when the truckers told me that their diesel engines would gel up on the interstate because it was too cold, that's when I realized it was cold. I'm like, dude, that's
Yeah.
cold, man.
Oh yeah.
You got a big engine just going, and that kicks out some heat. You know what I mean?
What always got me up there is it wasn't that many days, but we had a bunch of days that were really cold, maybe, zero or below, and how the body gets used to it. To
Yeah.
where then we had a day where it was like, I don't know, say you got -20 for 5 days, and then you get 10-degree weather, that 30-degree swing. I mean, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but at that time, I remember being at the man camp and just outside smoking cigarettes in a t-shirt. Like it feels like a heat wave, even though it was still below freezing because your body just adapts to that weather. Yeah, I was really amazed by that.
You can always
But
tell in Arizona who the snowbirds are. They're wearing shorts, and all the locals are wearing long pants. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah,
They
oh
got
yeah.
they got jackets on, and there you got these people from North Dakota walking around in tank tops and shorts and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But
But
circling
same
back
on the flip
though,
side down
what's
here in
that?
Houston, where it's like same on the flip side in Houston. Everybody talks about the humidity and how hot it is, and like having lived here a full year now, it's like you get used to it as well. Where you're
Yeah,
like, oh, it ain't that bad. But I remember visiting down here. I'm just like, this is horrible.
it does. It is very humid in Houston, and the traffic is.
Oh
To me,
gosh,
that's the biggest issue with Houston is the traffic. It's
it's
just
brutal.
same issue with Chicago. Too much traffic.
Yeah.
Um, and they're big semis. You know what I mean? And that's I got a lot of respect for semis, and so I stay away from them. Um,
Hmm.
Getting back to my comment though, why I brought up the Bakken because that was I came from agriculture. I was 7 hours from the nearest oil rig before 15
Okay.
years ago. Yeah, that's why I went out and lived out there because I wanted to
Hmm.
embed myself into the culture to do quote unquote investigative journalism, but in a positive way. Really,
Right.
just talk about the culture behind it and the people, because some of the more honest people are in the oil and gas industry, family businesses, and that sort of thing. But what somebody really smart told me, 12 years ago, we'll call it, that really made me expand into the other oil plays was that he said for the next 25 years, 70% of the oil and gas activity is going to come out of the Permian Basin. And I never forgot that because the Permian was kind of second fiddle to the Bakken back then. And the
Okay.
Permian and now is, of course, the lion of the jungle.
Oh yeah.
And when you take a look at where the Permian is going for the next 15 years, it's still going to be the lion of the jungle.
Mhm.
And when you take a look at the Eagleford and the Haynes, and even maybe some of the Niobrara, you got, and of course the Stack and the Scoop, you've got some proximity to the lion of the jungle. You start getting into Wyoming and North Dakota and some of those areas, those are on the fence, man. Those are, you got to be over $100 oil now, according to Harold Hamm.
Oh
And,
wow.
oh yeah, well he packed up
I
shop.
saw that.
Yeah,
Saw
I
that.
think I think he's going to Venezuela. He's got some government money coming from Wyoming for the carbon stuff, and
Well, if he listens to the Crude Life, and the billing's going through him where it's getting paid, our Ross automation would be perfect for somewhere like that. Where you don't want to put uh, feet on the ground. And I mean, what we're doing is completely
what
autonomous, right
did you
out in the
say?
field right now.
Ross
Ross, real
Automation?
time operated smart system.
So
It's through Ideal.
ROSS, like the big department
Yes,
store,
sir.
but
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So Ross Automation, is that under your portfolio?
It is. It's through Ideal Completion Services. I know when I saw the Venezuelan stuff and they're like, the infrastructure is horrible and the dangers and this and that. I'm not saying we're making a play at that or anything. That's way above. I'm the marketing guy, not the operational where we're taking
Mm-hmm.
our equipment to. But when I just look grand scheme of things, they're like, that's perfect for the automation we have. Those kind of scenarios, whether it be remote operations, not just in war zones or in geopolitical tension areas, but even in very remote locations or it's or in areas where abroad where the local workforce might not be educated on the processes or doing things how an American company might want to come in and do them. You can take some of the manual operation out of it and allow for somebody maybe starting a little more greener to have adaptation to be able to be out there and help out in different ways because they have the automation as a backup. I mean, I remember when I started flowing back wells, you were the ESD. When I broke out on the Chesapeake stuff, there was one person per well. You were on it 24 hours. You catch little cat naps. Day one, when you crack a new well, don't count on sleep until some point the next day. And at any point, if you go in your camper and come back out, there's that like, oh shit, I hope we're not spewing oil somewhere, because that's why you were out there. Now it's like, there's so many checks, balances, high kills, low kills, sensor switches that, I mean, it's really hard to, when you have that automation in place, it's really hard for some to go as south as it, could when you're relying on manual operation or old school processes.
How's the industry accepting the automation?
Once they get it, they love it. But when you're putting something out new and you've had to put in money into the R&D and,
Yeah.
There's very few that have it. It hasn't gotten to where, you can bring the price down to where it's maybe available for everybody, or the people that are on the fence about it go, I see the value when, like I said, in the flow back well testing game, at times you can go, me and you can go tomorrow, like, well, all right, let's go legal Zoom a company. Let's third party iron. Let's third party some hands. And, got a buddy that can get us MSA, and we're right in there. And when you're doing that and the people don't have all the back office support, they don't have the safety infrastructure, all the things that you should have that cost money, and they don't have them. I mean, they can go in really, really cheap on work. So when you're bringing in automated, technologies and things that really have some layers to them, and the other option is, very, very cheap operations. Some guys just still are, what's the bottom dollar? So
that
I would say it's
surprises
been a
me.
mixed bag as far as how they received it.
Well, you're always going to have the mixed bag, but I was a little bit surprised at the pushback and some of the hesitation on spending the money for some of the new technologies that were introduced, because you do have to spend, like any new technology, you have to spend more on the front end. That's just the way, whether you're building a house, whether you're building a well, whether you're, in my case, building a magazine. And I'll give you a magazine example. So when I first got in the business, we actually used light tables. So we didn't even use computer software at this point. Okay, that's how old I am, actually. And so only for 1 year, but I'm glad, because that year taught me how all the software works. So like when I see new editing software, Photoshop and InDesign and the whole Adobe suite and Canva and all these things, I still see the light table in my head. I still it breaks it apart type of a thing. And so it was very useful to me. But when I first started, it would take almost 2 weeks to get an advertising proof back. So if you bought a magazine advertisement, that would literally take 2 to 3 weeks sometimes before you would even get a proof to look at it. Well, flash forward to today, well, we're talking in real time. I can just have Chat GTP do it before you're done with your sentence.
I remember the days of, in Microsoft Paint, erasing around an object to get a cutout, and like one object erasing it could be easy an hour. Now that's just a tap, remove background
to knock
done.
A background out. Yeah, to transparent it and that sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And so when I look at the oil and gas industry, when you put premium gasoline in your car, it's better than non-premium.
Sure.
And it's going to save you so much money at the end of the day if you've got an engine that you care about. And it's that sort of thing. So that's what I mean. So the oil and gas industry should know better, that you got to spend a little bit more on some premium things if you want to save money. Go ahead.
I think what's happened to a lot of guys, it's like you go back 2015, 16, things crash. Then it's like, okay, man, we just got it handed to us, so we need to be frugal, need to be tight. And then it's like early 2020, boom, now we take another hit. So every time we take these hits, and it puts everybody back to we're into survival mode. And so, like, kudos to leadership over here at Ideal with the automation, and with Ross, that through time has continued to do this in-house. This isn't a rental item or something that we buy wholesale that we're just dropping into our stuff and saying that we have automation. This is all in-house design. Um, it's really, really impressive. And I know this is years in the making. And so while things have been tight, bit the bullet and was able to push these things through. And pretty much most and about to be all the majors, have deployed our technology in some way, shape, or form in one of their fields. And it was a lot of forward thinking. We say, hey, we're forward thinking flowback, but that really is the case, because when you're sitting there and you're always hurting and it's bare bones, meager rations, and we're trying to get through to the next one and waiting for the market, we continue to feed this. And I think it's really, really paying off, and we'll continue to do so, because if somebody said they're going to get into the automation game, there's so much trial and error to be able to compete now with people that have been running it in the field and know that it's dialed in. It's a big investment. It's a big, big investment.
What type of automation is it at the end of the day? Is it going to the phone? Is it going in a
Yes,
monthly
phone,
report, or
computer, laptop,
real time type
real-time
stuff?
data, all of it. Oh yeah, like I said, actuating valves from other countries if need be. Where I know a lot of these frac fleets are saying, well, we can control it all from Houston on a location in Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's absolutely
So
what
you're
you can
doing
do.
like flowback automation, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
So
tank automation, sand separation,
okay,
automated,
yeah, so you're talking about
frac,
water and sand and
all
chemicals
of
and
it.
all
Oh
kinds
yeah.
of hydrocarbons. How does that
Oh yeah.
work?
A lot of technology and a lot of people smarter than I am that put all this
Well,
together.
yeah, I'm not asking for the chef's secret here, but what does the customer get on something like that? Because the one thing about technology is that expectations need to be clear, because
like let's
some people think a waffle iron can be also be a Wi-Fi machine nowadays. So probably can.
right. Well, a lot of different deals. Like say if a frac operation has to shut down because somebody needs to go into the red zone, when they get that doesn't have nobody has to go in there anymore to where they don't have to shut down. So we can eliminate downtime. Let's say that we've got a pump tank and we're pumping out of that tank. We've got visual alerts, audio alerts, text, email alerts. If that tank is in a critical point to where we don't run that out on not just high kills of overfilling tanks, but a low kill that we don't pump something dry, and now we've got tools that are downhole and we're out of fluid, and next we're hung up, something turns into a fishing job because who was supposed to be managing the fluid didn't manage properly. And so that's where a lot of things of that sort, and like I said, manifolds, plug catchers, sand separators, when to dump, tanks, when to get alerts that we need to call in trucks like on a blowdown tank to come and suck that tank dry so that we don't have a spill there. It's really changed the way that people operate, and it's only going to go more and more that way. So,
I bet
um,
that's going to do real well in like the Bakken and some of the more remote places. I really believe that.
well, I think places that you know that have extreme weather as well, whether that's
Yeah.
West Texas in the middle of summer and it's 109 degrees and the sun's beating down on you. Does that guy need to be sitting on top of the tank the whole time tracking fluid? No, like he probably doesn't. And when it's negative 40 degrees in Watford City, North Dakota, does somebody need to be sitting out there the entire time with exposure to that weather? Absolutely not. And so, no, those areas, and I mean, there's a lot of areas like that I think will benefit if they're not already will. And I think if you care about your people like fully, uh, it's a no brainer.
Hey man, the times are changing, back in the day weren't allowed water during football practice, you know what I mean? Like that's
Oh,
water was for wimps. That
oh
type of thing.
yeah. Look how
I
tough
mean,
you turned out now.
and then after a few players started dropping dead, they're like, "Okay, we'll give them some water. All right,
Oh yeah.
fine." Yeah,
Well,
so
that's it.
my
Sometimes
point is
guys,
that times change usually for the better.
that's
And
right.
the example I love to give people is that there was a time when a magic amulet is what people used for medicine. And then penicillin came along, and all the magic amulet people went out of business pretty quick because penicillin worked. And the magic amulet, was just a lot of put
Right.
energy out into a lot of
The
belief
Pony
system.
Express used to deliver mail very
Yeah,
well also,
yeah,
until
exactly. And
there's a
so,
better way.
and that's what's happening here. A lot of the AI stuff, but as if we haven't mentioned it, what we're trying to articulate is that you'll see the first wave be remote and more dangerous type of places during certain times and that sort of thing. And I think the next wave after that, if not already there, is going to be on the fuel savings, because if you got to drive 2 hours out to a rig and back a lot to go and check things and do things, and AI can take care of that, you're saving on fuel now.
Oh
And
yeah.
diesel prices keep going up and up and up, which is kind of weird, but it's what happens. And so you'll see a savings on that as well. The airline industry found that out when they stopped. The airline industry, they got to bring this like black book with, and it has all their procedures and their manuals and everything. And it was about a 50-pound box, and every time, and it was just 1,000 pieces of paper. And every time a policy would change, they would have to change, that type of thing. And eventually, they went to iPads, and that, of course, made everything streamlined, changed jobs and people's duties and everything. But what they found out at the end of the year, they actually saved enough gas. It made a percentage, like noticeable percentage into their fuel savings, because 50 pounds every flight added up over time, because you had that less of a guaranteed, that type of thing. So anyway, that's what I always talk about when I talk about AI, is that there might be a little bit of an upfront cost, but nickels make dollars, especially on the saving side of things. And then you start talking about the security and the safety and just the whole health benefits that are beside it. And now it's just a whole expense. Anyway, I'm not in sales, so I don't want to get into it too much. But I didn't realize you were doing AI, so I got a little excited there, because that's how you expand your portfolio. You know what I mean? So did we leave any of your portfolio out, by the way?
No, not down here on the U.S. side. No, I think we mentioned everybody went
Not
through
down
it.
here on the U.S. side. No, international for another day, man.
That's it. That's it.
Well, I like to ask people who their customer is, but at the end of the day, you kind of have a lot of customers, don't you?
We do. Yeah. We're working for a lot of different people, and a lot of the majors between all of us. So yeah, when you're working for the big boys like that, you gotta be on your game, and right down from safety to operations to whatever protocol they have. So no, we got it dialed in pretty good. Always trying to get better. Can't rest on your laurels, and think you got it all figured out. But we're doing a good job and still working and trying to get better.
Well, in conclusion, anything we left out? Anything you want to reiterate?
No, I think we covered it. Glad to talk with you again, Jason. I'm glad you're doing well and still here and kicking big things on the horizon. I'm looking forward to following the Route 66 journey that you're going on. So thanks for having
Thanks.
me.
You bet. We'll talk soon, man.